We're going to continue our search through the southern colonies, taking a look at the things that were important in the southern colonies, taking a look today at life in the southern colonies, starting to do some comparisons in the southern colonies, and continuing to compare as we look at New England, the middle colonies, and the southern colonies. What's the same, what's different, those types of things. Okay? In your Chromebook, please have open page 65 and 105. All right. So in 262 in our books is where we should be, taking a look at life in the South. As we begin on page 262, you see it's the crowd gathered in the middle of the town's market squares, looking at two people bound in shackles and standing on a platform. They were brought over from Africa on a slave ship and are about to be sold. You try to imagine how scared they must feel after having been taken so far away from their homes and families. Okay? So this was part of society. It didn't mean that everybody agreed with it, but those in power certainly were taking control of it. And if you look at the bottom of page 262, there's a picture of the shackles, which are iron, and they were used to keep their hands together and their feet together so that very often that they couldn't get away, had no control over what was happening to them. Pretty much like handcuffing somebody in today's time, okay? Only they put them around not only their wrists, but also their ankles as well, okay? So on page 263, for more than 300 years, traders brought millions of Africans to North America, South America, and the Caribbean. The men, women, and children were taken from their homes, chained together in ships, and then sold. And let me just explain to you, on these ships, it was very crowded. They were not well taken care of. It wasn't your cruise ships, okay? They were often super crowded, not well taken care of. The goal was to get these people over here. And why were they bringing these people over? To sell them. And why were they wanting to sell them?
Make money, get more stuff.
But what was the ultimate goal? Why did somebody want to buy them?
To get wealthy.
But why were they wanting to get wealthy? What made them wealthy? Why did they want these people? Work on what? Their farms, and their farms were called what? Plantations. They needed cheap labor on their plantations, all right? In order to get their crops in, they needed cheap labor, okay? Slave labor. So slave labor was cheap labor. So they were capturing these Africans, and they were putting them on ships, and they were bringing them over, and they were selling them. Very cruel, okay? Not treating very kindly. The first Africans in the English colonies most likely arrived in Virginia in 1619. At first, the English colonies used indentured servants as workers, And the indentured servants, remember, were what? They what? Okay, so indentured servants were a little bit different. Somebody bought you a ticket to come over, you worked for them for about 7 years, and then you were free to go, right? Okay, so it's a little bit different. Zane, I'm not convinced you're really paying attention. You might be in the Zoom meeting, I'm not convinced you're following along. So part of being in this is you're in class, and you need to act like it. So an indentured servant is certainly different than what we're talking about now, okay? Because at the end of 7 years, you were free to go, all right? You basically owed somebody money, and the way you were paying them back, you were working for them. Does that make sense? Now, there were some aspects of it that were similar. I'm not going to pretend there weren't, but it certainly wasn't the same, okay? You chose to do that. These people did not choose to live this way, okay? As more workers were needed, colonial governments made slavery legal. By the mid-1700s, slavery was legal in every colony. The law said that children born into enslaved people were also enslaved, and families were often broken apart and sold to different owners. So even though, like maybe your parents came over together, that doesn't mean they stayed together. They might, maybe your dad was sold over here to this plantation, your mom sold to that plantation. There was no guarantee these families were going to stay together. Okay? In the southern colonies, most enslaved African workers worked on plantations. The way enslaved people were treated depended on their owners. Enslaved people were often beaten and abused, and it was very difficult to escape. But this did not stop enslaved people from trying. So, if your owner was a kind person, you might be treated kindly. But a lot of owners were not always kind. And they expected more and more out of you. And, if you didn't do exactly what was said, you might be beaten. Maybe you weren't given a lot of food. Expected to work long hours. Yes?
I know that you did.
You what?
I got the answer.
What question? We didn't even ask quite. Did I hear a question?
No, I mean in the comment.
Okay, we're not even there yet, so hold on. Okay, let's finish our reading. Okay? So enslaved people were not free to speak out against slavery, but they still resisted it. Some rebelled, others broke tools, pretended to be sick, or worked slowly. Punishment for such acts was often harsh. So even though they had little ways of rebelling, they often got punished for that. So even if the tool broke accidentally, they might be punished for that. But some of them were catching on to, hey, if the tool broke, they couldn't work. Some of the slave owners didn't even take that as it was an accident, even if it was. They took it that they broke it on purpose, so they were punished for it. So let's liken that to your pencil breaks in class. I could severely punish you because your pencil broke in class. Okay, was that on purpose? Was it an accident? What? If I were a slave owner and that was your tool, I wouldn't even ask questions. I could punish you severely for that. Does that make sense? Okay? So that's how it often went. All right? No rhyme or reason behind it other than they wanted more out of you as a worker. Okay? Enslaved people tried to deal with their hardships by keeping their culture alive. They told stories and sang songs about Africa. And by the late 1700s, the Christian religion also became a source of strength for some enslaved people. All right? Okay? So while they were enslaved, they had very little free time. But what free time they had, or even while they were working, they sang songs and they told stories. Okay? They didn't have time to sit around and write things down. All right? but they could sing songs, they could tell stories, and very often that's how they passed on their history. Okay? It wasn't through writing books, it wasn't through writing things down, okay? It wasn't through reading books, it was through singing songs and telling stories from one generation to the next, from one family to the next, okay? On 264, the economy of the southern colonies was based mostly on plantations, which would not have been possible without the labor of enslaved people. The cash crops produced by enslaved workers made some planters or plantation owners the richest people in the southern colonies. So let's talk about that. You own lots of acres. Can you do it yourself? No, so you have cheap labor by forcing these slaves to do your work cheaply. You're not paying them much, and you're getting wealthy. So that would be like me hiring you all to come do a lot of work for me on my farm. Okay? I pay you 10 cents an hour.
That's not good.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I pay you 10 cents an hour. I'll give you a little bit for breakfast, a little bit for lunch, a little bit for supper. I'll give you a shack to sleep in at night. But you get up an hour before the sun comes up, you work until sundown, and we start all over the next day. Okay, and 10 cents an hour. Okay, and when I sell the crops, the money's all mine, because I already paid you for working. Okay? Well, I got people watching you, and there's no refusal. And if you don't work hard, you'll be beaten and told you have to keep working. Okay, so there is no refusal there, Mr. Marcus. There's no sitting by being lazy. Huh? Right. 10 cents an hour is quite a bit. Oh, well, you can buy some more food from me, I guess, if you want to. But it's pretty expensive. Okay? But my crops were pretty good this year because I had you working hard and you did a nice job working hard. So I'm getting wealthier. I'm sure not sharing it with you though. Because for 10 cents an hour, I really made out pretty well.
That's not fair because you're getting paid like more and you do like 10 cents.
My land.
But it's our job.
But I paid y'all 10 cents an hour. I fed you, gave you a place to sleep.
It's not fair. Yeah.
I'll give you a place to stay. You know, you can sleep there.
We want to
Give you a shack. And Marcus, you didn't want to work around us, sell you. You didn't want to work very well. I'm selling you. Okay? Yeah, well, the next place might pay you 9 cents an hour.
That's always better than cleaning the bathroom.
All right. So, reading on, the plantation system. The first plantations were built along the coastal plain, and by 1750, settlers had moved west and started large plantations further inland. As planters grew richer, the amount of land they owned also grew. Oh, you're making me wealthier, so I'm going to have more land. Some plantations looked like small villages. There were many buildings, including workshops where enslaved people made nails, bricks, barrels, and other items used on the plantation. So they might see that you have a good skill there. I'm going to want you to come in, and I want you to work in the workshop for me. Okay, you come in from the fields, and I see you're a pretty good worker. Why don't you come in from the fields, and I want you to work over here in this workshop over here. And you seem to have some pretty good skills with your cooking. So I want you to come work in the kitchen. Okay, I want you out of the fields. Okay. You seem to be pretty good at cooking too, I noticed. So you come work in the kitchen, get out of the fields. All right? Okay? Sir,
would they sometimes, would any of them try to run away?
Oh, would they try to run away? Yes. And if they got caught, they were severely punished. Yeah. So that was not a good thing. Some of them actually did make it out, but Margaret, you would not have made it out. So, in order to make it out, there was the underground system that it had to be like well thought out. Like you had several stops along the way, and people. It had to be like you really had to have stamina. Like stamina is like you have to be like a long distance runner type thing. Like you could go for a long time. Like you could keep going. Like it couldn't be a thing of, oh, I can go for half an hour here and then I gotta quit. You need to be like on the move for a long time. And like there were safe houses along the way where people hid you, but they also were chancing that if they got caught, they could be severely punished. So like, I might be a safe house, but I had to make sure that wherever I hid slaves, like I might hide you in spots like in the bottom of my barn that didn't look like it was even part of the barn. So like, I might have a place that a door I could open up in the floor of the barn that was like a small room in the floor of the barn. And if you went under the barn, like if it's a bank barn, like if you went in there, the animals were in there, but you didn't really realize there was a room in there that the slaves could hide in. And then on top where the floor was, there would be hay over it so that if somebody walked in, they wouldn't even notice there was a door there. And like wagons, there would be like a false floor in the bottom of wagons that slaves would hide in maybe, so that if people were taking, goods from place to place, a few people might hide in there. But there were always people on the lookout for slaves that were running. So if you got caught helping slaves run, you could be severely punished as well, because you were essentially stealing property from a plantation owner. People might hide people in their attics or like in their cellars, but you really had to be very crafty about it. It wouldn't be like, I hide you in the bedroom in my basement. That's too obvious. Okay? You had to be very crafty about it. It had to be like secret rooms type thing that no one would think about. Okay? So it was, if you were going to run, you had to plan it out for a long time, and you were willing to risk your life on it, because a lot of them didn't make it. And if they were caught, sometimes they were just shot on the run, because they weren't supposed to run. It was a very dangerous thing to do, but it was well worth the chance for their freedom is what they felt like, because staying there and working like that was too miserable for them. Okay? So in doing this, the plantation owners often hired overseers to watch enslaved people as they worked. The overseer's house was often near the fields, and the enslaved workers' houses were usually far away from the planter's house. Near their homes, some enslaved people kept small gardens that they tended after working the planter's land. So when you look at that picture at the top of page 264 and 265, as the plantations got larger and larger, they became like small communities in and of themselves, like small towns. So if you look at that, They have the overseer's house, which is near the fields. Okay, do you see that off to the left? Okay. Do you see the slave quarters down towards the bottom of the page? Much smaller. They have the workshops. They have a hospital there. Okay. The kitchen is cleared up towards the right, and then the planter's house, which is a great big home, up in the upper right-hand corner. Okay. Notice that they are near the body of water. Why is that?
Maybe we can grab more water so we can have more food to go faster.
Okay. What? Trading. Good. Okay. So you can see that a plantation is not just crops out in the field. Notice they have an orchard, a tree. Do you see the trees all in a row there? Okay, so it's probably like orange trees. Okay, since it's in the south. All right. Okay. So on 264, the second paragraph there, planters ran the plantations, but they did not usually work on them. Enslaved people did the work, and planters sometimes worked for the community as judges or members of the colonial assembly. Many planters hired teachers to educate their children in the home, but enslaved children were not allowed to attend school. In fact, it was illegal for enslaved people to learn to read or write. Why do you suppose that is? Why do you suppose that is? Winnie? Okay. Okay.
So, like, if when they don't understand their language.
All right. If the enslaved people were smart, they could learn too much and be smarter than the owners and figure out how not to be enslaved people, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. It was illegal for enslaved people to learn to read or write. Those who tried to learn had to do it in secret, and they were punished if they were caught. Can you imagine being punished for wanting to be smarter?
Yeah.
Okay. In fact, there were enslaved people who helped run the plantation owners' home. Did the cooking and the cleaning and took care of the plantation owners' children. Very often, the children of, let's say, the cook would be in the home also and would be hanging out with the children of the plantation owner and would overhear the lessons. Well, if you overhear how somebody's learning to read, guess what?
Oh, well.
No, guess what?
They got punished.
No. Are you going to learn how to read?
Yeah.
How do you, younger siblings, think about it. If somebody is working with you on colors, did your younger siblings kind of pick up colors? If they were kind of listening in? Or how to count? Those kinds of things? Your parents may not have been sitting down with them, but they overheard you, right? So the enslaved kids that were in the main house with their parents might have overheard the lesson being taught to the plantation owners' children and would have picked up on some of that. So some of them learned to read because they were around it, not because they were formally taught, but because they were around it. Sapphire, question.
So what is when you took you to the south? What if you already knew how to read and write?
Most of the children that were born into this did not, because their parents didn't. But they would hide it. They would act like they didn't because they could be punished. Does that make sense?
So what if an owner asks them to deliver something and they can
Typically, they were told what they needed to know, and they would take care of it that way. And then that would be it. The owners would not ask them to do something that was outside of what they were supposedly capable or allowed to do. Does that make sense? So like if I sent something to the office and you weren't supposed to know about it, I wouldn't give you any more information than what you were supposed to know. So the people at the office would know you weren't supposed to know about it, so they couldn't do any more than what I sent. Does that make sense? It's like I would maybe have in an envelope what they needed to know. You wouldn't have to tell them. Okay? All right? 265. The economy of the southern colonies depended mostly on the crops from large plantations. However, most colonists lived and worked on small farms. Okay? So we've got the big plantations, but we also have now small farms. Okay? Former indentured servants often own small farms. Indentured servants, remember, they used to work for somebody, but they came over because they were paid their way over on a ship, right? They worked for somebody for about 7 years, and then they were free to go, right? So now they own small farms, okay? Few ever became rich, but most owners of small farms did not own enslaved people. Those who did worked alongside their enslaved workers, but did not treat them as equals. So when you were a plantation owner, very often you weren't out in the fields, you were doing other jobs. But if you were a small farm owner, you often worked out in the fields, although you did not treat your workers as an equal. Does that make sense? Hello out there?
Yes.
Okay. Since small farms were often far away from each other, church services became major events. Some families traveled for hours to reach a church. There they attended services and visited with other farm families. Okay? Free Africans. A few Africans were able to buy their freedom and start farms. However, most did not want to be part of the system of slavery. Some free Africans did buy relatives, but only to free them. To escape slavery, many enslaved people ran away. Those who escaped were often caught and returned to their owners. Some found safety in Spanish Florida or were helped by Native American tribes. The Seminole tribe gave runaway food and shelter. The Seminoles also gave them land if they gave back 1/3 of the crop they raised on it. Many runaways dressed like Seminole and learned their language. They became known as the Black Seminoles. So you've got Native Americans who are also helping here. Does that make sense? Okay. Some free Africans in Spanish Florida started small towns, such as Fort Mose. In 1738, it became the first settlement in North America for free Africans. The people of Fort Mose were free to practice African customs. All right? So, while we still have some enslaved Africans, we've got some that are becoming free, because some that were free were buying them and freeing them. The Native Americans were helping them, all right? Some were escaping to freedom, but that was risky, wasn't it? All right? Let's take a look at this, and let's take a look at differences and similarities of plantations and small farms. Differences and similarities of plantations and small farms. At the top, many southern colonists lived and worked on small farms. They planted and harvested their own crops. The owners of small farms did most of the work themselves, and few of them owned slaves. Many families on small farms lived in one-story houses far from their neighbors, which is very similar to what we just read, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. People on plantations also lived far from others. However, many families lived on plantation land. Some plantations looked like small villages with many buildings circling the owner's home. Some buildings were workshops where enslaved Africans made nails, bricks, barrels, and other items used on plantations. The kitchen was in a building by itself. Plantation owners often lived in large houses, and many of the plantations in the southern colonies ran themselves. Planters grew food, and skilled workers made needed goods. Enslaved Africans did most of the work on the plantations. All right, now, when we look at this, okay, we're looking for, when we do differences, A difference here needs to be contradicted with a difference over here. Does that make sense? So we're not doing did and didn't. We're doing like this person wore red while this person wore pink. Does that make sense? Those would be differences. Okay? Not this person wore red, this person wore shoes. Okay, so it's not really related. Does that make sense? Okay? This person dressed in winter clothes while this person dressed in summer clothes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay? This person used horse and buggy as transportation. This person used a jet as transportation. Okay? But we're still talking transportation. Does that make sense? So we're pointing out differences in transportation. We're not doing like transportation what they wore. Okay? So let's see what we can come up with from our reading here. What can you come up with as one difference from the reading? One difference from the reading. Okay, plantation owners did not work with their slaves. Oops, I'm going to start with the actual. In contrast, on small farms, what happened? What was the difference on small farms? Yeah, the owners worked side by side with their slaves, right? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Okay. What else is large on the plantations? What else did they say was large on the plantations in our reading? Yeah. What about on the small farms compared to this?
They didn't have regular.
So small acreage and large area of land and large houses. I should put large houses. Small number of acres and small houses. Okay. Similarities. Similarities. What's similar? What is similar? Dante.
They have slaves.
Did all of the small farms have slaves? Not necessarily. Okay, not necessarily.
They both have slaves. So they came out from like, one doesn't say that some of them were, they all found out.
Yeah, they both farm crops, didn't they? Okay.
And they had acres. And they had land.
So they both had crops.
They both had land.
Okay. So we'll put that kind of together, a crop and land, and and own land, because that kind of goes together. Because you can't have crops very well if you don't own that land. Does that make sense? Good. How about where their houses were situated? Were they close together? Were they near neighbors?
They were just, they had different places.
They what?
Houses were different.
Were they near their neighbors?
No, the two similar because they were near other houses.
Okay. So none of them were near their neighbors, right? That makes sense? They live far away from others, right? All right. So while there are a few things that are similar, there are many differences in the plantations and the small farms. Okay? All right. Let's take a look at the other part of this. The lesson title that we read today was Life in the Southern Colonies, or Life in the South. So we'll put that in there, Life in the South. you guys at home able to stay along with it? Ava?
Yeah.
Lily, you following along?
Yes.
Eli? Eli? Okay. The way slaves were treated depended on what? The owners, yeah. How did the enslaved people keep their own culture alive? What did they do? Winnie? Songs and what? Yeah, told stories and they sang songs, yeah. The economy was based mostly on what? What kept the economy going? What was the biggest moneymaker? The little farms? What kept the economy going? The big what? The plantations, guys. Now, what specifically made them wealthy? The owners? The crops produced by the slaves, yeah. Does that make sense? And some plantations look like what? Small towns or small villages, right? And most small farmers, their owners did not what? Own slaves. The section of the free Africans, a few were able to buy their freedom and start farms. Where did some of the runaways find safety?
the underground.
That was me talking in our reading. That was me talking. We're in our reading.
What's that?
That was me talking. We're in our reading. That was me talking. In Spanish Florida, you guys are confusing me with the reading. In Spanish Florida, remember me talking, reading that?
No.
I do. The Black Seminoles, who were they?
The Africans?
Yes. They were Africans who had run away, right? And dressed like the Seminole Native Americans, right? And the last one, what was this for? The last thing I read, it was the what? Settlement for who? Settlement for who? Marcus. For who? Yeah. The free Africans. All right. On Friday, we worked on page 61, worksheet, and I told you to put that in your classroom folder. Please get that out. On the back side, you should find your page 62. Page 62. We did page 61 together, filling all that in. Page 62. We completed the chart. You should be able to use that chart to help you answer these questions, as well as if you need to refer to page 252 to 259, you could do that. But a lot of the chart should be able to help you answer these questions. Questions? It is due tomorrow. Yes. Is it on your shelf?
Miss Allen,
What?
I'm not in your science classroom or your
Mm-hmm.
social studies, so I don't have that in Miss Kaufman's.
My guess is she assigned it on Friday or maybe today.
She never assigned it on Friday, and I just looked on Google Classroom and it isn't there.
Okay, email her and ask her for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because she could be off, like a little bit off on days compared to what my class is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Ava, did she by chance give it to you last week?
No.
Okay, email her and ask her about it, okay?
What's it called? What's it called?
Page 61 and 62,
Okay.
all right?
Yep.
Thank you. What? Tomorrow? Did you find it? See if there's extras up there. If not, I'll have to try to find some extras. No, not in there. Whoa. Where are you grabbing it from? Down in there. What's down in there? Down in there. Hey, during class today, you'll have to see me about filling in that chart again. Okay? Good, get ready to go. Quietly in the hall. Oh, it's Monday. I have STEM. smile for you, and then, oh my goodness.
On the plans it says tomorrow. Maybe I'm crazy. Well, that's fine. I'm not gonna complain. Thursday's the celery. So we're gonna do it before the Sunday?
It's tomorrow. That is,
It's Wednesday?
it is Wednesday.
It's not tomorrow.
That's the 16th.
I told all my kids it's tomorrow.
And it's Wednesday, not Thursday, I'm, none of it.
Do you want me to, so I'm not here on Wednesday, do you want me to do that? I mean, he'll probably do that. I can. The other kids, I think they're doing okay with their first and stuff, right?
With what?
So just like, I think, Ezra, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm just reading it.
they seem, on tests like that, they seem to either, like,
Because it's no, it's recall.
I've studied, or I haven't studied.
Yeah.
I look on the board, doing training, and.
Yep.
And they're down from what it was, yeah, but I don't know how much time I can continue to give people.
Hey, I don't have any kids on here. Yay.
And, so like, I looked at Santiago's work that he turned in Friday, the quality wasn't there. I don't know what I did with this, I'm like, it's a choice. Turn in, make corrections, ask questions, how much someone can say to that, so. Smile at me, you think that's okay, we go to smile, just really close to your people.
Right, yeah. I am pulling him today. That's not Thursday, that's Wednesday.
That was like the total of the two.
Yeah. I'm pulling Santiago today because I want to find the we have now. But I don't see his name on the board.
I don't either. But, all the people,
Yeah.
He's got,
Yeah.
he's got the emergency.
Okay. We'll touch base on that too. They're doing the decorations that have to look. He has to get his work done.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do that instead of the tree decoration. Unless he's finished, so.
Yeah, I've lost my kids down, maybe just do my first tree decoration, I'll tell you, I can take your thoughts on the wall, that's it. Period. If the thoughts over here haven't done any decoration, sorry. You're not, because it's all your name. I need to know that, I think that's important.
Yeah, I'm going to tell him today, like, we have to get your homework done and then.
When my board was full, it took me over 15 minutes to these things up there.
It's going great to do, so we gotta get it done.
And it's not like I wait until I have a whole bunch of names. Every time I put it right down, I say, these people don't have to memorize it, they must know. I still get nothing. I don't know what else to do. I gave that option. I'm just saying that for time, it's wasting my time, I'm not doing anything.
Oh, you have a definitely one for.
Well,
Yeah, they know what they have to do.
I'm serious, it's wasting my time, the only time I look for it.
Yeah, eight's up here in almost every category.
Huh?
Eight's up there in almost every category.
Yeah. Okay, so we should. Yeah. So we can.
Like, you have to get close. Yeah, that's what it is. Yes. I guess. Oh, duh, it's homework. What else would it be? Just a piece of paper? Yeah, hey.
Christopher, and Adam.
What is that? Yeah, I saw that. What are you doing? You hit my face. Yeah, until you hit both our faces. My face. Hey, yeah, you did.
I had to make it look real.
No, you didn't. You cheated. You're like, I feel like, hey, I'm champion here. Come back with me.
I do it first. Wait, Christopher, what do you do? No, I don't have gym on Fridays. I have gym on Sundays. You gym on Sunday? I have gym tomorrow.
Did that mean you don't have to cut me?
Oh, yeah, I'm working.
Can you take something? Everybody take that?
Yeah, I didn't do that last week.
Yeah, it always does.
Yeah.
Hey, Amanda. You don't want to know what this is because it's literally just paper.
Oh, no, it was going on the back.
Oh, okay. Wait. I'm gonna go get a got paper because now I'm like literally sweating. My mom's gonna wonder if I have homework, and then she's gonna like check my backpack, and then she's gonna see this, and she's gonna ask like if I have homework. Yeah, I just log out and make sure my homework and then go like, then I accidentally say I have to do it. Yeah. So then she's doing it like. Yeah. And then she would make it like, no, and let me know, and they can go on
Okay, let's open up, iWriting. I want to show you a couple of things.
It's lagging. It's lagging. Yeah, it's literally starting to like, when I opened it, it was going like that. Yeah, it was like that. It's lagging. I bet it's not. What? I don't know. It's not.
Marcus, are you not taking these? Marcus, are you taking those in your test? Huh? You didn't finish it? And you told me to go to the home, you got done, buddy. Okay. I thought you finished it. Huh? I thought you told me you finished it, maybe not, but that's what Here, Marcus? Take a desk out there with this. Yeah. Right there, one is here, the other one is there. Okay, what I'm hoping to show you is this. That's what we'll do. How you can go in and find your progress, what you've done, where you are, and all that jazz. So I think if you go under My Progress, click on that diagnostic. Let's see what that does for us. Should show you your score, I do believe.
It does. When you go
Okay. So I think you can go clear back and see what all you have accomplished and where your beginning score was and the lessons that you've worked on and your completed work, right? Okay? So, Wednesday, we're going to be sending home. Adriana, would you please have a seat? Thank you. Wednesday, we're going to be sending home paper copies for your parents to look at. The bar graphs we've been showing you. You want to coach it back? So your parents can actually see it and hopefully understand it. All right? So they can see where you should be, where you are, all that jazz. Does that make sense? Okay? So what I want from you today then is going in and for about 10 minutes, I want you working on the next lesson that is in there for you. There's a plug in over there. Sure. Go plug in. Somebody left their cord over there. Go plug in again. What? Some headphones? What? Did you ask for something for Christmas? Ask for something for Christmas. Did you? Ask for something for Christmas. You bring $1 in and buy something in the office. again? Here's two, Adriana. clear? About wanting to step up? No. You don't want to step up and all the here. And when you go out there with practice, so that's the end. You want to have a space to go right back. Okay? Remember that? Okay? Question. All right. Here you go. Some of your names are up here on the board, it says you have to done. I am not interested in taking down anyone, I'm over it. I'm going to go find you, I can take it down, tell me what you need to do, and on board. Okay. If that stuff up here is all done, but you know, sort of situation, it's done. Don't bring me half done stuff. That'll really take me long. Even if I do my time again. You understand that? Hey, get busy. You've been back to your seat for 2 whole minutes and you've done nothing yet. Your name's up here a lot. Get busy. Okay, you understand what I'm talking about? Don't send me anything to do a classroom, none of that. I'm not looking there again. I've been there, done that. Some of you I checked 3 and 4 times, there was nothing there. Not looking there again. You're doing the legwork and you're bringing it to me. Do you understand? Please don't waste the markers, color on that. Okay, back to your seat. Yes. Still are doing nothing. 5 minutes is passed, and you have absolutely nothing on your desktop. No, there's no reason you can't find anything. I've given you loads and loads of papers. Get busy. Hey, what is it that you do? What are you looking for? Writing page 76. That was last week. You don't have a copy of that? Yes or no? Then get back there on the shelf and look for it. Like that, I'm not taking anything else from it. Would you like to say a word? Or a test it? Take that test. Take your first second part. You have to keep it started. Would you like to travel solving? Test? Here, come get it. Take 30 seconds on that. Get it done. Great work shown. Anybody else have their social studies wrap-up question done? That was due today? The 2 paragraphs? And really, Sapphire, you're looking like you have a clue what I'm talking about. And some e-learning. That's me, 61. 62, 61. Sapphire, do you have this or not? If you don't, then just pop on your list and get it done. Because it's due today. Get it done. That falls under Mrs. Allen doesn't like tracking down late stuff. I have 3 papers so far. There's more than 3 people in this class. Is your name on it? So you left it here at school. Okay. 4 papers. Well, it appears that everyone but Evelyn, Elon, Hayden, and Santiago, I'll be working on that then. So just do. You're busy. One paper won't cut it. Well, can you turn it in? Yeah, your wrap up. Let me stand up for you. Yeah, that's good. Did you find it? Do you have your business ones turned in? That's what I asked for. Okay. Look down there in that cubby and see if there's any extras. What are you working on? What are you working on? Yeah, I said you should be working on your social studies. Did you have it done and turned in today? Did I call your name off? I said to be working on that because you needed to turn that in today. It's due today. That's already late, right? Get the thing in that's due today. Is your name on it? And you have 5 sentences in each paragraph? Okay. Good, you know that.